Hello, I'm Neville Hay, and welcome to Passports International. For many years, the Pau Grand Prix was the curtain raiser to the Formula One season. Just after the war, having raced there successfully pre-war with Mercedes-Benz, Pau was at the forefront of the return to motor racing, with the French drivers Jean-Pierre Vermeulen here in the Simca Gordini and Raymond Sommer in the 4CL Maserati. Formula 2 and Formula 1 together. And this is Louis Chiron in the 4.5-litre unsupercharged Largo Talbot. This race was, as usual, a tremendous one, with some people getting hotter under the bonnet than they were on the track, among them Sommer. The result, a win for the Italian driver Pagini with a Maserati, with Jean-Pierre Vermeulen second in the Simca Gordini. Pagini gets his laurels. And on now to 1954 on the first year of the 2.5-litre Formula 1. Once again, this was the debut of a number of new cars. The 2.5-litre Ferrari in the hands of Farina, already with a dented bonnet. Gordini, without Simca, were all going well here, chasing hard after Trentino and also Farina. And eventually, it was Jean Berra who took the lead from the two Ferraris. Berra drove a magnificent race in one of the last victories for the Sorcerer's 2.5-litre six-cylinder cars. Passed the flag to a magnificent win, watched by Zaza Gabor and her husband, Rubirosa at the time. It was a delighted Amédée Gordini that embraced Berra at the end of this historic win. By 1960, still the circuit survives, now as a very, very important one in the 1988 Intercontinental Series, a real driver's circuit. 1988 has seen drivers like Pierluigi Martini battling it out with some of the up-and-coming stars in Formula 3000. Many of them on their way to Formula 1, from whence he came back to try and re-establish himself. The 88 race saw a number of drivers in with a big chance of victory. The weather was fine, and a tremendous field first was trying to qualify for the grid. This has been the year of a new manufacturer, Reynard, and there's nothing that Lola or March or anyone else have seemingly been able to do to match the magic of what has turned out to be the most successful car in the Formula 3000 series in 1988. Pau was no different. Roberto Marino was hoping for victory here and looking very competitive both throughout practice and into the race itself. The grid lined up like this: Marino in pole position on 42 with the Reynard, then Pierre-Henri Raphael with a similar car. Jean Alesi with another Reynard, third fastest, a brand new car, and the first of the marches, Pierluigi Martini. Eric Bernard had pulled the route up to a good position, and Bertrand Gachot's Reynard was not far behind him. Olivier Griard with the Lola was next up, and then Michel Troll with his Lola DFB. Paulo Barilla with another Lola, number 40, next on the grid, and Mike Thackel making a one-off return to the route team, completing that row. Cole Oyster's Reynard also well placed as we came up towards the start at Pau 1988. And away from that start, it was a tight queue of cars with Marino flashing straight into the lead, ahead of Pierre-Henri Raphael, and slotting in between them there, Jean Alesi, as off in a big way against the barrier. Just off camera there, we've got a car, and that is Bertrand Gachot. Gachot has had one enormous accident there, and I think we can see him, in fact, about to get out of the car. So he's unhurt there, but we've got quite a tight bunch. Alesi still in second place. Fourth place is Pierluigi Martini. The meat in the sandwich still being number 7, Raphael. As through they go, that was Michel Troll there on the back of that group. And there is Martini, but it looks to me as if, yes, it's number 42, well and truly in the lead, and pulling away from everybody, Marino. Roberto Marino in the lead, the 29 years old Brazilian, with the Reynard really dominating this race and setting the pace from the front. So Reynard beautifully set up. And this is a tight circuit, just as tight in its way as Monaco is. Tremendous challenge to a driver of concentration, and of course the curves and the Armco barriers, one mistake, you can be out. Precise driving necessary, and Marino pulling out a tremendous lead and really running that race now all on his own. It's a race that needs really good brakes and a very precise handling car. It's got to be stable, because there's quite a lot of camber about, which is something we don't see on a normal circuit nowadays, since it's run on a city roads, and the downhill section particularly difficult. It's one of those places where you need to get all your braking done in a straight line. We've got a pit visitor there. That was number 17 coming out. Russell Spence, the British driver, not having a very good run here, but Marino very much in charge at the moment. And quite a glut of cars behind him. Marino clear of Alesi, Raffanel and Martini, and they're having quite a battle among themselves. Spence, we know, has got himself a problem, so he's out of that battle. But it's Alesi and Martini and Raffanel who are really fighting it out behind, as three more cars go through in the midst of them there. Eric Bernard with the Rout. Rout have not had a good season this year. '17, Russell Spence out of the pits, going better again now, but really out of the hunt as well, I'm afraid. And this is the battle that's going on here, with on the back of it, number 12, Olivier Griard. And we see in slow motion here the sort of handling that's required. Marino, arms crossed, coming out now, booting the throttle. The tail begins to come out. He backs off the lock. Not too much. And immediately, of course, has got to put reverse lock on for the next corner. So Roberto Marino leading the race comparatively comfortably. Down there, one wheel off the ground. So easy to make a mistake. Scuff a tyre, lock a brake here, touch a curb. As I said, you've got a real problem. And Marino proving that he's very much the man to beat. And frankly, I don't see anyone catching him through the twists and turns of power here on the sort of form that he's showing here today. It's a really dominating performance by the 29-year-old Brazilian, who's had some Grand Prix experience, but as yet has to get himself a regular seat in a Grand Prix team. Marino, Alesi, Raffanel, Martini and Bernard, the first five. And behind there is the battle. Marino's running the race rather on his own, and the cameras of French television are seeming to concentrate on the Brazilian, who puffs out a bit of smoke there, but I don't think it's anything serious. This is another little battle led currently by number 23. And there was a quick shot of Pierre-Henri Raffanel behind Alesi. Alesi, number 8, Raffanel behind him, and they're in among back markers at the moment. A low-down shot giving an impression of speed here as the cars file through this tight left-hander, number 9. Also well up, Pierluigi Martini. The sort of experience that he's got, he should be. Another man in trouble there as they come out of the corner, slowing, getting it back together again. And Alesi still very much the man to try to take away second place from, and the man to do it, number 7, Pierre-Henri Raffanel, 29 years old. Jean Alesi, the rising new French star. Raffanel, who's been around a year or two. And these two battling very hard for second place behind the dominant form up ahead of them of Roberto Marino. You can see the next battle a bit further back. That has Pierluigi Martini at the head of it. But they've tended to lose touch with the battle for second and third. The forward sign swinging in the breeze. And we look back at that incident, and that's Giovanni Amati there, Giovanni Amati, who almost impeded that group of cars, with still Alesi, 24 years old, the youngest of the group, the French Formula 3 champion last year, holding on to that second place. Ravanel, 27 years old, another ex-Formula 3 champion, Pierluigi Martini, and then number 4, Eric Bernard. Bernard also another youngster, a Frenchman, 23 years old, and they've had a lot of trouble, in fact, with the Ralt this year, as we watch the first two go through. The Ralt, which has normally been a front runner, can't live with the Reynards, can't live with the Marches either. They are Rafanel, really struggling to stay on terms with Alesi. He's able to close the gap a little sometimes. Martini there in 4th place, in 5th place, Bernard, and in 6th place, Michel Troll. And that quintet of cars fighting it out behind, and a long way behind, Roberto Marino. Marino running away from them as we've got this low-down shot again of this quintet. The gap between 2nd and 3rd is remaining reasonably static, and I think that probably Rafanel is waiting to see if Alesi runs out of brakes or tyres or something like that. Equally, Pierluigi Martini doesn't seem to be able to make much impression on them as they go past the lake there on the right-hand side of the road. And there is Alesi, Rafanel still fighting it out. And the red and white Marlboro-coloured car, he did a spot from the 2nd place car, the Stimaral, the Sank car, in 3rd place. Martini, the most experienced of the lot, 27 years old, has had some Formula 1 experience with Minardi in the past, and as we said, came back again to try to re-establish himself in Formula 3000. Here is the leader, Marino, and the order: Marino, Alesi, Rafanel, Martini, and Bernard. That's the first 5 here at Pau. I'm Lafferty now for the leader to contend with. That was number 24, Pierre Chauvet. One of the oldest drivers in the race, Chauvet. 45 years old. Drove in Formula 2. He's been with Formula 3000 right from its inception in 1986. But not making much impression today. And that's the leader coming up, getting on with the Lafferty. You can see the head wobbling about a little bit there, because even for someone of Roberto's experience, he is finding this quite a strain on those neck muscles. Getting the power down, always a problem. And he's doing it very effectively, and still really holding a cushion over everybody else and driving the race now at their pace, and able to control it from the front, having built up such a respectable lead. Arms crossed again, down through that downhill section. One front wheel bouncing on the floor there, and you can see how carefully he's braking. And we've got a spinner there, that's number 24, that's Chauvet, and he's out in front of the leader, misses him, and that was quite a moment for Pierre Chauvet. The car is damaged. There's a wheel tucked up there, you can see on the one side, and he was missed there by the leader, whom he spun in front of as he was about to be lapped. And Marino must have had his heart in his mouth and thought that once again another power victory was going out the window there, but all was well. That low-down camera, which gives us an idea of the speed of the cars here. As now Marino is on his way up to lap somebody else. And we see in replay what happened to Chauvet. He touched the barrier on the outside, and you can see how close to disaster that was, because it was no good for steering where the car was, because it came back in front of him again. So Marino really having to react very quickly there, and that was certainly a combination of a lot of experience, a lot of skill, as in front of him there went Paul Belmondo, actually, in the Lola, as a result of that manoeuvre, to unlap himself, and now has to be lapped all over again. And Marino can afford to take his time to do that. Here we see the marshal struggling with Chauvet's car as the leaders come by again. The leader back up onto the tail of the man he had lapped, but he's got to find a place to do it all over again, and that's not an easy thing to do here. Belmondo still leading him. And Belmondo being followed very closely. Gives the signal, come by on the inside, keeps well out of the way. And slots him behind and might learn a thing or two. "22 years old, ex-Formula 3 driver in his third season. Belmondo has yet really to make a mark here. Paul Belmondo, son of the French film star. As a rapt supporter of his father, as we watch Marino crossing arms, whirling the car down there and leaving the opposition very comfortably behind. And Roberto Marino very much in charge then at Pau. Chauvet out of the race then, and you can see the car by the side of the road narrowing a little on line, the already narrow road there with the yellow flag by it. And here comes the lead up. Still driving this very intelligent race. Now looking to have things very well in his pocket. Quick, clean, keeping away from the barriers by inches all the time. Staying away from the curbs as well. And more yellow flag waving because I think they're proposing, in fact, to move that car now. And the battle for second and third, forgotten by the French cameras at the moment, which is where the real interest is in the race. Once again, Roberto Marino follow it round, and they're tending to concentrate more and more on the leader here. I think really in an effort to try and pick the back markers up now, they're going to have to wait a little while. But no, they've caught Marino again. Going round there, the right-hander past the lake, past some of the architecture and the statues here, that it is rather pretty city. That unrelenting wall there on the driver's left. Three-tier Armco all the way around, curbs as we said as well, so it really is a precise place to drive round. You've got to get it right or you're in real trouble. And stark contrast, I'm sure you'll see from those shots at the beginning of this film from archive that we were provided with, showing us the power of the past to the power of the present. And getting a little bit sideways there. Probably a little excessive zeal on the throttle pedal. Matching the power of these cars. This is the sort of circuit where wheel spin does play a part, so you can't really press too hard on the loud pedal, otherwise you can rip those rear tires to shreds with the slow corners. And you want a car that is actually set up here with not a great deal of understeer because of the tight corners, otherwise the driver is working very hard. But as we've said, it can't be too nervous because under braking it's got to behave itself. But beautifully set up here, the Reynard of Roberto Marino on his way towards victory here at Pau. Just watch this shot at him coming in here in slow motion. Look how close he is, in fact, to the barrier here, the curb, in a beautifully tight line. The arms crossed again. And I was wondering where Belmondo had gone. He's busily there explaining what happened. Here's another man who's charged the barrier. And you can see the hands there bandaged to prevent blistering rather, in fact, than to cover up the blisters that are already there, as he explains to the French commentator what the situation is. But just a little excessive zeal there and into the barriers and out of the race. So easy to do here at Pau when one mistake can cost you the race, no problem whatsoever. It's a race that requires intense concentration, and it's very, very tiring for the driver. And Belmondo there falling victim, as many have before him, to the twists and turns of Pau. But Roberto Merino, all that experience, all that concentration. See a lot of understeer on the car there, coming into that corner with the front trying to wash out as he came in, uplifts that wheel again. And this is all very quick, and it's all very much on the limit in spite of the fact that he's got a good lead. What he's probably doing is dropping off the revs rather than anything else. And we're waiting, sitting here waiting. I thought we were going to wait for the second, third place battle, but we didn't. We're going back on to Marino again. And Roberto Merino certainly can't claim that he didn't get any coverage of his power victory in 1988, because that's virtually all we've seen now for the last 5 or 6 minutes or so. There he is again. There is number 11, Michel Troll. And I would guess that he's not that far away from being lapped by the leader, since we seem to be waiting here. That is number 23. Aguri Suzuki, followed by number 10, Marco Apicella. Both of them well down in the order at the moment. And here is Merino again. So the French director has picked out the leader. And left us still wondering what's happening in what was an interesting battle for second and third, and then fourth, fifth and sixth places. Past the stricken Chauvet car. And back up the hill again. And Merino, if you want to know the way around Pau, he's showing us all how to do it. On this fast part of the circuit, the maximum speed here about 140 miles per hour is the fastest they go at Pau. But it's not that, it's the concentration and the preciseness that's needed through corners like this, which we've seen on a number of occasions, on the line not varying more than 1 inch to 2 inches lap after lap. Down, weaving his way round the twists and turns here, more often than not, at least on 3 wheels. And although the car is so stiff, out comes the tail again, beautifully controlled there. He is using the throttle to make his life a little bit easier. And one would gain the impression that right now Roberto is able to play a little with the car and lessen the effort a bit. Still 28 ahead of him there. Gregor Wojtek, about to be lapped. I wouldn't think it's going to be too long before he's on terms with him. Flashing along the straight. And that's Michel Troll, who's off into the barrier there. Michel Troll off into the barrier. And he obviously wants some help from a marshal to push him out of it. So that's robbed the race of one of the battles that was going on, as Troll limps off there. He's being told to stay where he is at the moment. We've gone back to look at the leader. But Troll then out of the race by the look of things at the moment. Get out, says the marshal. We'll take the car away. No, we'll push it away is the decision. But it looks to me as if, although there's no damage to the car, there may be some mechanical problem there because it doesn't want to be pushed. And he's losing time, he's losing laps, and effectively he is out of the contest anyway, as Gregor Wojtek is being pulled in closer and closer by the leader there, who's obviously eased off a little bit. And Wojtek about to be passed, I would think, sometime this lap. Seems to have pulled out a little bit on Merino in a straight line there, but I don't think it's for long. Wojtek now just a car's length ahead of the leader, pulls out of the way, lets him through. That's the same place where we saw Belmondo do that. And I think that having done so, Belmondo tried to stay with the leader and then made a mistake which took him off into the barrier, which saw his retirement from the race that we saw him talking about a few minutes ago. We're coming up towards half distance here at Pau. And Roberto Merino, who has dominated this race since the blink of the green light, is looking very dominant indeed now, has got a commanding lead, and frankly, barring problems, there is very little chance, I would have thought, of anybody catching him, because the battle that's going on behind, as we see that overtaking manoeuvre again, not as there was anything particularly significant about it, except the good manners of Gregor Wojcik. As we were saying, Marino has got such a lead now, and with the others fighting so closely together, and we do hope to see them a little bit later on, there seems to be no chance of any change. Here we've got Michel Troll, who has found his way to the pits. And what the problem was, we're not quite sure, but they've got it back together again, and the Frenchman sets off back into the race. On the road, he's more or less in the same position as he started in. But he has lost, of course, a lot of time as a result of that, and will not figure, I would think, in the final result in the first half dozen or so. Troll having a very bad season after last year when there was a lot of promise. This year it's all gone very sad for him, and it's really not been a good race at all. You can see here there the amount of vibration and banging about and battering that in certain places on this circuit Marino is getting from a circuit that of course is based on public road and therefore is not billiard table smooth. One of the reasons why circuits now tend to all be flat and not to have great camber is with these huge tyres. They don't really work if you've got one off the ground, as so often the case is here, and such is the power that has tended to be put out in motor racing today, that the circuits are made to fit the cars rather than cars made to fit the circuits. But you can't turn the clock back, and that's the way it is. Wide tyres inevitably meant that was going to happen, and they've been with us now for a very long time. You can see the little splitters on the end of the front wing, and also you can see that the bird has got the means of refreshing himself from the dehydration on a hot day that takes place here, although the breeze around would mean that it's not perhaps quite as hot as we've had some races here. But inside the car, although the engine is behind you, it's pretty hot, hard work, as you will see at the end of the race when we look at the drivers when they get out, as we saw from Belmondo's shot, for example, a few minutes ago. Here's the battle. There's Troll on the back of it. And that's the Martini battle, I reckon, that's going on. Let's just have a look at that. Yes, that's Bernard now ahead of Martini. And on the back of that battle, number 12, Olivier Griard. And Bernard trying to get through there on the inside, couldn't make it, and you can see that they're almost in touch with Raphael. And we've got some vigorously waved flag there. I'm not sure to tell us what, because we've not seen the reason for it. Could it still be the car of... it looks as if it is, in fact, still the car that retired of Pierre Chauvet. Pierre Chauvet. Michel Troll on the back of this group is really not involved, and now we see Bernard trying to get through. And that was pretty brave by Eric Bernard, but he didn't actually achieve anything. Now that's Raphael in third place, Martini in fourth place, Bernard in fifth place, Griard in sixth place, and then Michel Troll on the back of the group. Alesi then still second, but now away from that battle on his own, just in the same way as the leader also is well away on his own in the shape of Roberto Marino. And Troll is anxious to catch up with that group and try at least to make some ground and prove that if he is actually on the circuit, he's the quicker of the two green cars. Olivier Griard there on the back of the group is in fifth position. Troll is well down, but Griard, knowing that he's no real threat to him, may very well let him by. That was a manoeuvre there made by Pierluigi Martini, which came to nothing, but he looked good, just didn't achieve anything much. But those four cars very close together, and one mistake on the part of those drivers could result in an elimination of at least two cars and the elevation of at least two more. And Griard looking for the outside there, locks up and spins, and Trolle ends up there on top of him. Michel Trolle ends up there on top of him, a somewhat indelicate position, and now the marshals are left to try and part them. And Marco Apicella has a good look at it, finds his way around. They lift off that car. We see it again in replay. On the inside there, locking up, he left his braking too late, spins off, and there's nowhere for poor Michel Trollet to go. And all he can do is to try and minimize the impact, which he got his brakes on, but minimized it a little. Both cars out of the race. And so now Bernard, you'd think, might have learned by that, but no, he's having a real good crack at Martini in exactly the same place, but Martini didn't want to play. So Bernard still in 5th place. Alesi second. In 3rd place, Rafanel. In 4th place, Martini. And there comes that little battle there, and in the middle of it all, Olivier Griard, who had sat in the car for a while. I don't think he was hurt. I think he was more or less stunned with fear about what happened. He's climbing out, and it's taking an awful long time after the incident to climb out, and I'm quite sure that had that happened anywhere else, and we're going to see it again. Well, 180 degrees, front wheel to front wheel, and I looked to see whether in fact there was any impact with the front wheel there of Troll's car and Griard, but there wasn't. So here's the battle then for 3rd, 4th and 5th. We know Alesi is 2nd and safe. We know that Marino is 1st and safe at the moment, and this is where the fun could start. And the fun there nearly did start because Martini was looking for a way by and couldn't find one. And Pierre-Henri Rafanel under a lot of pressure now. Rafanel keeping a very cool head with all the pressure in the world on his tail. And I think tending to hold up these two a bit. I think if they got by him, there would be every chance perhaps of Martini getting a little bit closer to Jean Alesi. But Rafanel rightfully is saying to the guys behind, make your own arrangements. And they backed off to think about it as Bernard looks at the inside there and thinks better of it. Bernard, the youngest of these drivers, Eric Bernard, driving a very intelligent race and the best showing we've had for the Ralph this year. But the season very early yet. And past the scene of all the incidents and excitement. And you can see just how close this battle is, and it's a question of finding a space and a place to do it. And a lot of weaving around going on. Oh, so easy to collect the guy behind when you're doing that, who's not quite sure which way you're going and is looking for a place himself. But Martini now is getting quite furious, and there's a bit of Italian temperament coming into this. He would like to get past Rafanel, but doesn't quite know where to do it. And this has got to be the feature battle of the race, the battle that's going on for 3rd, 4th and 5th places here. Rafanel, Martini, Bernard. And Rafanel has got a little bit more breathing space than he had on the previous lap through here. Got a bit wild there and a bit out of line, which could lose him a bit of ground. It pays to be so smooth here, as we've seen from the leader's progress. And Bernard there, able to follow this battle, but not really able to make his point either. But at least they're on their own, and they're not troubled by back markers. And Martini looking for a go, I think, here. Looking for a way, looking at the outside. And the outside is never the easy way to do it. But he scrabbled round, didn't lose another place as a result of it. If Bernard had been a bit faster on the uptake, he could very well have been where Martini wanted to go and have gained himself a place there. But that's experience. Bernard trying there to come out tighter. And the French television deciding that the team manager might have something to contribute, but it's not going to help. The only thing that is going to help here is Martini to find somewhere where he can get onto terms. And Bernard has dropped back. I think he's realized that being too close to what's happening up ahead all the time is not necessarily the right way to survive this race. Because Martini looks as if he's dropped back for a moment or two, but I think it's only a temporary thing while he takes 2 or 3 deep breaths and then comes back at Pierre-Henri Raphael. Tries perhaps to lull him into a false sense of security. He's come right back at him again now, and looking again for a tight exit here. Get alongside, couldn't do it. Now has a go on the inside, looks at the outside. I think he almost hit him up the back there. And short of getting out and throwing his helmet at the car, I don't think he's thought of anything new. Bernard can't think of anything new either. So it's all wait and see. With all the pressure on these three, and it is really a tremendous battle here. It's by far and away the best battle we've had all day. With Marino going away from everybody, Alesi doing the same. And Raphael now under tremendous pressure, as is Martini. And any one of these 3 cars could change position very rapidly. Interesting to see whether or not there is going to be this change of position that we rather predicted will happen. Reynard, March Rout, and the Reynard darts out and does it. And that took a lot of thinking about, a lot of time, and eventually having done it, now it'll be interesting to see whether Bernard can follow. He's trying to. But Bernard not finding it quite as easy. Sometimes when a driver has lost a place like that, he will relax just a little bit, and there's still time for Eric Bernard to perhaps, correcting the tail there, get up into a challenging position and get past what I believe to be a slowing Raphael at the moment, and you can see how, rather to prove that, Martini has gone away. Here we see that passing manoeuvre again, and very close to the Armco on the left-hand side of the road. The right-hand side for him. And we've got another spin-up, and that is number 23, Aguri Suzuki, who is doing a very fine 3-point turn there, and gets away again. And here is Bernard, and of course this battle is allowing others to catch up, but Bernard, in exactly the same place, gets past a very reluctant Raphael, who didn't want to give that place up at all. So it's first Marino, second Alesi, third Martini, fourth Bernard, fifth Raphael, and sixth, and coming up fast onto the back there, is Marco Apicella in his March Judd, and that too, I think, could create a problem for Pierre-Henri Raphael any minute now. Raphael is definitely slowing. I believe he has got some sort of problem that is slowing him. Here on a circuit with oh so many gear changes per lap, it could be something as a gearbox problem, one gear perhaps playing up. But whatever it is, Bernard is past him and pulling away, and right on his tail now, number 10, Marco Apicella. 3 wheels on my wagon there for Bernard. Apicella, 22 years old, kartist, Formula 3, his second season in 3000, a very promising young Italian driver. And let's see if he can find his way by. And he chooses a different line, and that actually seemed to me a damn sight less risky. Marino, Alesi, Martini, Bernard, and Raphael we've just seen, in fact, lose his position, so that's wrong. The caption is wrong there. Because we know that we have just seen that position change as number 10, Marco Apicella, came up to pass Pierre-Henri Raphael. So the race now settling down a little bit, and as Raphael drops back, obviously that battle is over, because he tended in fact to space out those cars, and I don't think that Bernard can do anything about catching up with Martini, and even assuming that he catches him, passing him, as we've seen, is an entirely different matter here. But it certainly isn't the one of trying, and the young Frenchman really hurling the route round here, a circuit that it certainly seems more happy on than some of the faster circuits this year. Long Toronac's route team, which has always been a front runner in Formula 3000, has not had the happiest of seasons. And poor Raphael is being left well behind, dropping well back. Martini, I reckon, not quite so far ahead of Bernard, and Apicella right up with him as well. And these three could finish, of course, quite closely together. There is Roberto Marino, however, back in the lead. I thought it was unlikely, and there they've actually recorded the move up of Marco Apicella to 5th place. Behind Roberto Marino, number 42, Alesi, number 8. And 3rd place, Pierluigi Martini. 4th place, Bernard. But all behind this man, Roberto Marino, who has dominated the race, has led it from start, and looks to me as if, barring incident, he's going to lead to the finish as well. Pit boards going out to some of the lesser praised drivers, and still not putting a wheel wrong. Marino in the lead. He had that one awful moment where he had Pierre Chauvet spin in front of him and succeeded in avoiding what could have been a very difficult situation. And that was a certain amount of good luck for him, but good driving too. And that's the only real serious problem, as far as we know, that he has had with the Reynard that's out there in the lead of this race at Pau. This is round 3 of the championship. A championship that currently is seeing different winners from every round, and Marino looking to try and get his act together here. Britain's Johnny Herbert absent from this race, not unfortunately being allowed to drive following some fairly serious head injuries. He's okay, but if you've been unconscious for a while, you've had concussions for a while, then Professor Watkins doesn't like racing drivers risking their lives, and for that matter the lives of their colleagues, so Johnny Herbert forced to miss this one out, robbing the race of the winner of the first round of the championship, who is still a safe bet for a position in the first 3 at the end of the year, and almost certainly a safe bet for a Formula 1 driver if he goes on the way he's been driving at the early part of this year and drove all last year. And Marino too, hoping to secure that elusive drive in Formula 1. He's had a couple of free drives last year and acquitted himself very well. Prior to that, he had a testing contract for Lotus, which was one of the unhappiest times of any young driver's career, and proved absolutely nothing for him or for Lotus, and neither of them came out of it with any kudos whatsoever. The change from Formula 3000 to Formula 1 is still, even in the days of non-turbocharged cars being predominant in numbers and next year being the norm, quite a big step, as a lot of drivers have found. And one of the most difficult things about it is that a lot of the circuits are unknown to them. There is Alesi doing a bit of lappery in 2nd place, incidentally, and we see how far he is now ahead of Pierluigi Martini. And Alesi holding on to that 2nd place, doing a bit of lappery here. Number 18, the victim, Enrico Bertaggia. And Bertaggia now forming a bit of a mobile chicane for 3rd and 4th men, who are very close together. Now, Alesi's on his own. If the battle breaks out for 3rd and 4th, That could leave him unmolested up there in second place. Here is the young Frenchman Jean Alesi, a little bit more understeer on this car, you'll notice, than Roberto Marino's car. And that is our Japanese telling us that the next spin may be further up the road and he's not quite sure where he's going again. We wait for second place man, Jean Alesi, come through past the stricken car of Pierre Chauvet. There you see Martini in the background, and that is foreshortened by the view from the camera. That's the real distance between them. And I don't see Alesi being caught, as we said. And here we see what happened once again to the Japanese Aguro Suzuki. He spun it for about the fourth time in this race. And I think the gap is coming down between second and third, but I wouldn't have felt it was coming down sufficiently quickly for a change in that position, as we've said. And I think that probably Alesi has eased off just a little bit. It looks to me as if he's coping with a fair amount of understeer there, and therefore he won't want to pressure the car too hard on the basis of the fact that if the tyres cool off just a little bit, and he has to deal with a last-minute challenge, all will be well, but otherwise he won't want to take chances. Nice smooth progress through the lefts and rights in this difficult street circuit at Pau. And certainly coming up very well and very sharply there is Marco Apicella in number 10. And it is Apicella who I see as being, logically, the man to challenge possibly for third place at the moment if he continues this rate of progress. Equally, Bernard is not too far behind Pierluigi Martini, so these three are going to finish close together whatever happens. And that result is still in doubt, with Marino still with a resounding lead, looking to be reeling off the laps without any trouble at all. Alesi in second place then, and the battle beginning to form up, and you can see there that Alesi is being reeled in. So second, third, fourth and fifth here at Pau in 1988 are going to finish close together, and it's only the virtuoso performance of the Reynard driven by Roberto Marino that has taken him out to such a substantial lead and has seen him really outpace everybody else on the circuit. Marino showing his class, showing his ability, getting away, but the young Turks behind him really having a fair go in and among themselves, and this is where the real race has been. Bernard. A second place here could make all the difference to not the team fortunes so much, but the team feelings, because they really have had a bad time. I don't think a second's on, but a third might be. You can see that they're closing on Alesi all the time, but I think the time might run out for them before they can get onto terms. Just the same way as it looks as if it might run out to me also for Marco Apicella, who's not actually galloping up onto the tail of a battle beginning to develop now between Luigi Martini and Eric Bernard for third and fourth places. Pierluigi Martini with right behind him Bernard. And Bernard, of course, has got to find a way by, having caught up with him. As we said, that's a much more difficult matter. But it can be done, as we have seen. And it depends whether or not the young Frenchman decides that he wants to sit where he is until they're a bit closer to second man rather than force the issue now. If he forces the issue now, the chances of them closing that gap will become less. And also, they stand a chance of holding at bay the challenge that's coming in from behind. Martini seems to have pulled out just a little bit more breathing space there, but loses a bit up the hill. Maintains it down the straightaway. And round yet another hairpin are now equidistantly spaced out. Second, third, fourth, and virtually fifth. So second, third, fourth, and fifth here at Pau, all finishing close together, all behind Marino, who we haven't seen for a lap or two. We could have done with a little bit more of this battle perhaps in the earlier stages of the race. than the camera showed us. But nevertheless, we've had an opportunity to look at close quarters at some names that are definitely heading as out goes the checkered flag. The checkered flag is out. The race is run. Roberto Merino has won it. In second place, it's going to be Jean Alesi. He has built up sufficient cushion to be able to make it second place without too many problems. In third place, Pierluigi Martini. There's the flag for him. Eric Bernard fourth. And in fifth place, Marco Apicella here at Pau. Alesi pulls straight off. I wonder whether that's indicative of the fact that he had a problem of some sort or was running low on fuel or something. I doubt fuel here, but he may very well have had a problem, leaving the others to complete their Tour d'Honneur. Merino the winner, Alesi second, Martini third, Bernard fourth, Apicella fifth. As they go round on their slowing down lap. And here Alesi, who obviously has got a car that wants to go no further. There is Pierre-Henri Raffanel. There is the Japanese who succeeded in getting to the end without a spin. And Roberto Merino about to take his hat off. He's got his belts off, his gloves off. And this is his first win of the season. And the little Brazilian obviously very, very delighted with the way this has gone. Getting out to the congratulations of the team. Really has been a terrific race for him. A great race for Reynard and our French colleagues, in fact, collecting in Roberto, and they're going to have a nice surprise in a minute because they'll find that he doesn't speak any French. And the actual question was this in fact an easy race for him, an easy victory, as they suddenly decide to ask him that in English?
Was not that
it's an easy race for you?
Was not that easy. To keep the concentration was difficult. I had an accident in front of me, which I had to stop and go into first gear. So, but at the end of the day, everything turned out okay. Thank you.
So Roberto Merino wins round 3 of the FIA International Formula 3000 Championship here at Pau, and proves conclusively that he could very well be the man to beat as the season goes on. As we said, he almost has made it to the winner's circle in the championship. He's done it many times in races, but he does look a hot tip for Formula 3000 in 1988. Jean Alesi obviously going places, the young French driver there on his left-hand side, and Pierluigi Martini cannot help but feel pleased with a good third place and a challenging position, which may very well help him on his bid to get back in to Formula 1. That's it for Power Sports International for tonight, and from me, Neville Hay, good night and see you next week.